thing that was originally called Somebody's Got to Do It. We changed the name to Dirty Jobs. It goes on the air.
For 8 intense seasons, Mike Rowe became America's most fearless TV host, diving headfirst into the country's dirtiest and most hazardous jobs. What many fans never realized, though, was the toll it took on his body. From broken bones to burns, lost fingernails, and deep cuts requiring stitches, his injuries were relentless. Across 300 grueling episodes, Mike Rowe's body endured an unimaginable price. This is the untold story of the near-fatal accidents that almost ended Mike Rowe's career and nearly cost him his life. The spark that started it all.
Hello, how's it going? It's me, Mike Rowe. Welcome to another must-see edition of...
It was the year 2002 when Mike Rowe sat across from his producer James Reed at a small San Francisco bar called Grumpy's. Both men were deep in thought, their drinks untouched. They were supposed to come up with something different for their local CBS show, Evening Magazine. The irony made Rowe laugh. Television executives constantly demanded originality, but only approved what had already succeeded elsewhere. The show was dying, ratings were sinking, and the audience barely cared anymore. But that also meant one thing: they had nothing to lose. So amid the hum of conversation and the clinking of glasses, the two began tossing around wild ideas. That night would unknowingly plant the seed for one of Discovery Channel's biggest hits. Rowe had recently finished Paper Lion by George Plimpton, a book that fascinated him with its concept of immersive journalism. He imagined a host who would dive headfirst into unfamiliar worlds. No preparation, no polish, just raw experience. When he pitched it to James, he was intrigued, but insisted the show stay grounded in reality. No celebrities, just ordinary people doing extraordinary jobs. As the night wore on, their brainstorming turned to admiration for the unsung heroes, the people who did the grimy, tough, and often ignored work that kept the world running. Eventually, they found a name that fit perfectly. Somebody's Gotta Do It. The next morning, slightly hungover but inspired, they pitched the idea. To their surprise, it got approved. Their first segment featured a man named Anthony and his unusual job at the San Francisco Zoo. He drove a massive truck, nothing glamorous, but it captured the heart of what they wanted to show. It was real, dirty, and fascinating. That one segment became the foundation of something much bigger than either man could have imagined. Within a year, they had filmed about 25 segments. Evening Magazine was suddenly alive again. New viewers tuned in, local media took notice, and several episodes even earned Emmy nominations. The segment that won? A piece on artificial cow insemination. A strange but fitting example of how far they were willing to go. Then, everything nearly collapsed. CBS management changed, and with new leadership came a new direction. Executives decided that dirty wasn't the right image for a growing audience. Rowe was once again told to create something different. It was déjà vu. And this time, he realized something crucial. His stories deserved a bigger platform. So, he took a gamble. He mailed a copy of the cow insemination segment to Good Morning America, suggesting they hire him to create similar content. They never responded, though years later, he'd appear on that same show as a guest. He sent the tape to other networks too, and got rejection after rejection. His favorite came from Comedy Central. At this time, our fall schedule does not allow for a talk show that takes place inside a septic tank. Most people would have quit. Rowe didn't. Determined, he turned to old friends at Discovery Channel, who told him he'd need to quit his CBS job and find a trusted production company to back his idea. So he called Craig Piligian, the owner of Pilgrim Films and Television, the man behind American Chopper and a former Survivor producer. Craig remembered Rowe from an earlier disaster, Worst Case Scenario, a show so bad they both tried to forget it. But when Craig watched Rowe's bizarre cow segment, he saw potential. Together, they reshaped the idea, and Discovery began to take notice. At some point, the name changed from Somebody's Gotta Do It to Dirty Jobs. The format expanded from a 7-minute local feature to a full-hour national show. Discovery tested it with 3 pilot episodes and a year of focus groups before finally giving the green light. In March 2005, Rowe quit Evening Magazine. Dirty Jobs premiered in November 2003 with its first pilots, then officially launched on July 26, 2005. It ran for 8 incredible seasons, ending on September 12, 2012. The show's success stretched worldwide, from Dirty Jobs Down Under in Australia to a European version hosted by former Manchester United goalkeeper Peter Schmeichel. Later came Dirty Jobs Road Trip in 2020, followed by a 2-season revival in 2022. The series earned 5 Primetime Emmy nominations and became a cultural touchstone. Each episode followed Rowe as he joined workers for a full day, doing every disgusting, dangerous, or exhausting task they did. No shortcuts, no filters. Through it all, Rowe never mocked the people he met. He joked about himself, sure, what he called his dirty jokes, but his respect for the workers was genuine. Every episode deepened his appreciation for the people who did the jobs no one else wanted. So, after all the grime, sweat, and rejections, what was it really like working on Dirty Jobs? The answer, as Mike would discover, was dirtier and more meaningful than he ever expected. Dirty Jobs.
Oh, you mentioned a Lincoln bedroom. I was at the Henry Ford Museum last night at this event.
Mike Rowe was suspended 300 feet above the ground when a voice beside him said, "Just don't puke." The veteran window washer added, "If you start spinning, we'll all get hit." Try to hold it in. Rowe looked down at the endless stretch of concrete and shook his head. This was how his day began. Hanging from a rope, swaying in the wind, bleeding from his palms, and realizing there was no easy way out. The washers handed him what they called a cheater pole, meant to make the job simpler. "Simple?" he muttered. "I've seen simple. This isn't it." The harness had bitten into his legs. The wind whipped harder, and every small move sent him swinging like a pendulum above the city. By the time they paused to rest on a narrow patio, Rowe's hands were raw, and his legs trembled. "Not sure my legs work anymore," he joked, half serious. He asked the crew about that Hawaiian word they always used, ohana. "So," he said, "can we all go down and grab a beer together?" "Oh, you mean pauhana," one of them replied. "That means you're on your own, buddy." And just like that, they disappeared down the ropes, leaving Rowe to face the sky alone. But the worst was still to come. Later that week, he found himself in an underground sludge pit heated to over 100 degrees. The air was thick, and the smell, unbearable. "How long does it take to get clean after this?" he asked. "A good long while," came the answer. His task was simple in theory. Shovel every ounce of the black goo into buckets. Eventually, they brought in a jet router, a high-pressure hose capable of slicing skin if handled wrong. Rowe's job was to feed 200 feet of that hose into a pipe for 8 straight hours. By the end, they had filled a 600-pound barrel of sludge bound for an incinerator in Newark. But as Rowe soon found out, there were always worse jobs waiting. On another day, a crane hoisted a buoy covered in barnacles onto a ship's deck. Rowe grabbed a chisel and got to work. The barnacles popped off in thick, alien-like chunks, each one squirming as it hit the floor. "That's disgusting," Rowe said. "It's not that bad," someone replied. "No, it's that bad, man. It's really that bad." Inside the buoy's horn, he had to crawl, scraping as he went, pushing muck out behind him. "Are you sure this is a real job?" he asked. "Definitely," they said. "A nasty one, but it's real." Soon he was on to another assignment, cleaning fuel leaks inside aircraft wings. The fumes were so strong that even with fans blowing, the air felt thick and heavy. "This is insane," Rowe muttered as his inflated suit turned him into a human balloon. He scraped sealant off rivets, applied new layers, and squeezed through spaces no man should fit. At one point, he was crawling under a jet's fuel bladder when he noticed liquid dripping from above. "Where's that coming from?" he asked. The answer hit him hard: the bathroom overhead. "Any advice?" "Yeah," someone said. "Wash your hands before you eat chicken nuggets." Still, the day's most grueling task was cleaning the inside of a fire boiler aboard a yacht. "You'll have to go in head first," Randy said. Like Superman. The problem? Superman could fly. Rowe could only crawl. The space was so tight that Randy had to pass him a flashlight between his legs. You're one of the few people to ever see the inside of one of these, Randy said. Lucky me, Rowe replied. He scrubbed each tube in the pitch-black chamber until, by accident, he spat and shattered his only light bulb. Now, in total darkness, he kept working, because quitting wasn't an option. Finally, when he couldn't take it anymore, he called out, "Randy, I'm coming out." Crawling backward, his body coated in soot, Rowe emerged, looking more like a chimney sweep than a TV host. But here's the truth. That filthy boiler powered a yacht that cruised at 8.5 knots. Someone had to clean it, and that day, it was Mike Rowe. The next day, it would be someone else, because these jobs don't vanish. Someone must climb skyscrapers, shovel sludge in sweltering pits, scrape barnacles, squeeze into fuel tanks, and crawl through blackened boilers. And on dirty jobs, Mike Rowe kept showing up until one job nearly cost him everything. Almost died in a shark suit.
And if you're willing to tell it as honestly as you told it from the stage.
Mike Rowe often says that somewhere along the line, people stopped respecting hard work, the kind that leaves your hands sore and your clothes ruined. He calls this shift the Dirt Index. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, he explained, "For generations, getting dirty meant you were productive and respectable. But that's changed. A century ago, nearly everyone knew a farmer, a miner, or a builder, someone who earned a living through sweat and calluses. But over time, factories gave way to offices, and technology replaced manual craft. We've lost touch," Mike said. "We don't really appreciate what our world would look like without those people." And he knows what that loss feels like firsthand. Over the years, Rowe has cracked ribs, broken knuckles, and peeled off fingernails while filming dirty jobs. But his worst injury came in a blast furnace, where a simple mistake nearly cost him his eyesight. While filming with a blacksmith, he wanted a dramatic shot, flicking the switch as flames roared to life. What he didn't know was that gas had been building up. When he hit the switch, the fireball exploded outward, burning his eyebrows off and melting his contact lenses to his eyes. "When you're picking melted plastic from your cornea," he said, "it's a gut check. Every blink sounds like a click." Yet the most terrifying moment of his career didn't happen in a workshop. It happened underwater. In 2004, Mike was in the Bahamas helping Jeremiah Sullivan, the inventor of the stainless steel shark suit. The suit looked like futuristic chainmail, strong enough to withstand a shark bite, though not without pain. "You still feel the pressure of every chomp," Mike said. He and Jeremiah built a suit together and planned to test it the next morning. The film crew and even a TV Guide reporter named Leon joined in for a dry run. Wearing a helmet screwed onto his shark suit and breathing through a welder-like mask, Mike descended into the deep. Jeremiah waited below, kneeling on the ocean floor. Everything went fine, until Mike suddenly felt a strange tightness in his chest. He glanced at his air gauge. Empty. Somehow, he had burned through 45 minutes of air in just 15, his excitement and nerves draining his tank. His last breath, an exhale, left him 60 feet underwater, sealed inside a steel suit with no air and no time. Panic kicked in, but Leon noticed something was wrong. He swam over, grabbed Mike's gauge, and saw it flashing empty. He tried to pull off Mike's mask to share his air, but the helmet screws wouldn't budge. "All I could see was the boat 6 stories above," Mike recalled. "I was an anchor at the bottom of the sea." Thinking fast, Leon flooded Mike's buoyancy vest, grabbed hold, and kicked upward. Together, they rocketed toward the surface. Mike fought to stay conscious, pushing through the crushing pressure until his lungs burned. He doesn't remember breaking the surface, only the sound of people shouting and the feeling of air finally hitting his lungs. That day, Dirty Jobs nearly lost its host. In later interviews, fans often asked whether the show was scripted. Mike laughed at the question. "Directors say they don't want scripts, but they do," he said. "Deadliest Catch has to be scripted. You're piecing together what's already happened. But Dirty Jobs? I just watch the footage and talk to it." What we shoot in the field is 100% unscripted. When asked if there was ever a job he refused, he said no. The only ones they turned down were those too graphic for television, like embalming or working at a body farm. It's never about fear, he explained. It's about what makes sense for the audience. Dirty Jobs isn't about gross things. It's about work, real, honest work. Each episode typically took a single day to film, though some stretched into 20-hour marathons. The longest story ever shot lasted 2 full days, but Rowe stopped doing that. If you can't tell the story in one day, he said, then it's not the right story. And what about his crew, the unseen heroes behind the lens? They're everything, Mike said. At first, Discovery didn't want them on camera, but we pushed for it. They became part of the story, somewhere between characters and a Greek chorus. Because Dirty Jobs isn't just about what we film. It's about showing how we film it. For Mike Rowe, that's what makes the show timeless. It's not the dirt, the danger, or even the laughs. It's the reminder that behind every clean, comfortable life, there's someone out there getting their hands dirty and occasionally risking their life to keep the world running. Return of Dirty Jobs.
You have to be honest and fair-minded about the past, and you have to be willing.
After 8 long years of crawling through sewers, wading in animal waste, and exposing America to the jobs that no one else dared to talk about, Mike Rowe finally faced a reality that he had been avoiding. Dirty Jobs was over. For years, the show had been a celebration of hard work in all its unglamorous glory. Fans panicked whenever the show went silent for a few months, flooding Mike's inbox with questions about whether the show was canceled. For years, Mike reassured them, saying not to worry. Dirty Jobs would return. But this time, things were different. Weeks before posting the news on his blog, Mike received the official word. The network was placing Dirty Jobs on what they diplomatically called a permanent hiatus. In reality, it was canceled. Mike didn't rush to tell anyone. To him, this was more than just a television show. It was a way of life. Exploding toilets, dangerous snakes, chaotic farm animals, and manure of every conceivable kind had defined his days. The thought of a future without Dirty Jobs was difficult to accept. Around Thanksgiving, Mike took the time to craft a heartfelt message, thanking the people who made the show possible. The origin story of Dirty Jobs is as unconventional as the show itself. Back in 1993, Mike had been fired from QVC, leaving him with a nearly empty resume. Discovery Channel then hired him to host Romantic Escapes, a program that involved traveling the globe with a co-host, sampling wine in hot air balloons, and staying in luxury resorts. It was a glamorous role, but it couldn't compare to the thrill and authenticity of exploring work that most people would never consider. In 2001, Mike created a local San Francisco segment called Somebody's Gotta Do It. He believed it had the potential to reach a national audience, but networks disagreed. Reality television at the time was dominated by game shows, crime dramas, or viral animal clips. No one wanted a show about everyday workers tackling filthy, hazardous jobs. Undeterred, Mike continued pitching his idea for 2 years, facing rejection after rejection. The turning point came when Craig Piligian of Pilgrim Films stepped in. He filmed a segment where Mike collected bull semen and artificially inseminated a cow. Craig immediately recognized the show's potential and convinced Discovery to order a pilot. The series was renamed Dirty Jobs, and what started as a local experiment transformed into a national phenomenon, inspiring more than 24 similar programs and reshaping reality television as audiences had never seen it before. Mike never lost sight of the people who made the show possible. He gave heartfelt thanks to his crew, including Dave Barsky, Doug Glover, Troy Paff, and others who risked life and limb on countless shoots. They hung from bridges, crawled through mines, navigated shark-infested waters, castrated sheep, moved giant cacti, and nearly froze to death in the Arctic Ocean. Mike called them his band of brothers, recognizing that their hard work, resilience, and camaraderie were as integral to the show's success as the jobs themselves. Equally important were the workers who opened their doors to the cameras. Hundreds of Americans across the country allowed the crew to film them performing the dirtiest, most dangerous jobs imaginable. Mike referred to them as the true stars of dirty jobs, noting that their skills, dedication, and willingness to share their labor with the public formed the heart of the series. Even after the cancellation, the story of Dirty Jobs wasn't finished. In August 2018, Mike posted on Facebook, hinting at a potential return. By November 2019, discussions of a reboot were underway, with both Mike and producer Dave Barsky expressing interest. The COVID pandemic delayed plans for regular episodes, but a spin-off, Dirty Jobs Road Trip, premiered in July 2020, keeping the spirit of the original series alive. Finally, in November 2021, Discovery officially announced the return of Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe as host. The show relaunched on January 2, 2022, airing on both Discovery and Discovery Plus. Over the next 2 seasons, audiences were once again treated to the gritty, unfiltered exploration of America's most challenging jobs before the series concluded on February 2, 2023. The return of Dirty Jobs highlighted a profound truth about work and culture. The jobs that keep society running are often invisible, underappreciated, and misunderstood. Mike Rowe emphasized this repeatedly, explaining that these roles aren't easy. They are physically demanding, mentally exhausting, and frequently hazardous. Over the years, he had suffered cracked ribs, broken knuckles, and even the loss of fingernails. His most severe injury occurred while working with a blacksmith, where a blast furnace melted his contact lenses onto his eyes, forcing him to remove fragments of plastic from his retina. A painful and terrifying experience. Rowe's philosophy on work extended beyond physical labor. He introduced the concept of the Dirt Index, a way to quantify society's respect for dirty work. A century ago, people understood the importance of hands-on labor, whether farming, mining, or construction. Manufacturing, technology, and financial services have since replaced many manual jobs, creating a disconnect between society and those who perform essential, difficult tasks. Mike argued that society has lost appreciation for the world it would inhabit without these workers. Throughout all of this, Dirty Jobs remained unscripted in the field. Unlike other reality shows, where footage is manipulated or scripted to create drama, Mike and his crew captured the raw truth of each job. After filming, Mike would add voiceover commentary, giving audiences his reflections while staying faithful to what actually occurred. He stressed that while jokes, pranks, and lighthearted humor were part of the show, the primary focus was always on the work itself, the dedication, skill, and perseverance of those performing it. The production process itself was demanding. While most episodes could be filmed in a single day, the longest shoot stretched to 20 hours, with some complex stories requiring 2 full days. Mike emphasized that if a story couldn't be told in a day, it likely wasn't suitable for television. Crew dynamics were equally critical. Integrating the production team as both narrators and silent participants required careful planning. By showing the crew on screen, audiences could witness not just the jobs, but also the effort required to document them accurately, adding another layer of authenticity. Mike also shared harrowing personal near-death experiences on the show. Once, while testing a steel shark suit in the Bahamas, he nearly ran out of air 60 feet underwater. Only the attentiveness of a crew member saved him from disaster. Another time, he suffered burns and eye injuries during a blacksmithing segment. These events illustrated the real physical and mental risk associated with dirty work, risks often hidden behind the camera but central to the reality of the jobs featured. Despite these dangers, Mike never refused a job due to fear or disgust. He occasionally declined assignments that wouldn't translate well to television, such as working in body farms or performing embalming tasks. Every other job, no matter how unpleasant, was fair game. His respect for workers and commitment to representing their effort authentically were non-negotiable values that guided the series from start to finish. Ultimately, the cancellation, reboot, and final conclusion of Dirty Jobs reflect the enduring cultural significance of the show. Mike Rowe didn't just document dirty work, he elevated it, offering a platform to honor labor that society often overlooks. From farmhands to steel workers, divers to sewage technicians, Dirty Jobs celebrated the resilience, ingenuity, and grit required to perform essential work. Mike's reflection on the show's life cycle reveals an important lesson. The work itself, the sweat, the grit, the dedication, is bigger than the fame, the jokes, or even the television show. The return of Dirty Jobs and the stories it captured reaffirmed this philosophy, showing that audiences remain eager to witness the courage, ingenuity, and perseverance of everyday workers performing extraordinary tasks. When the work you love most disappears, as it did temporarily with Dirty Jobs, the challenge is to adapt, honor those who made it possible, and ensure that the legacy continues. Through cancellations, reboots, and near-death experiences, Mike Rowe and his crew demonstrated that hard work, respect for labor, and a sense of humor are timeless values. The series may have ended, but its influence and the recognition of those who keep the world running will endure. From its inception to its final episode, Dirty Jobs showcased the essence of human effort, grit, determination, and dignity in the face of unpleasant tasks. Mike Rowe's journey from a fired QVC host to the face of America's most celebrated dirty work encapsulates the spirit of resilience. His story is a tribute to the millions of workers who perform challenging, overlooked jobs every day, and to the production crew who risked their own safety to capture the truth. In the end, the legacy of Dirty Jobs is more than just entertainment. It's a cultural statement. It reminds viewers that respect isn't given for clean hands or office titles, but earned through effort, commitment, and willingness to engage with the hard, messy work that keeps society functioning. Through laughter, danger, and sheer perseverance, Mike Rowe and his team immortalized the dignity of labor, leaving a message for future generations that some of the most important work goes unseen, unappreciated, and yet is indispensable. From its early beginnings in a local San Francisco segment to its nationwide impact and eventual return, Dirty Jobs remains a testament to the value of honest work. The show's influence resonates far beyond the screen, inspiring viewers to reconsider what it means to labor with pride, courage, and skill. The end may have come, but the story and the respect for the people who make it all possible lives on. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss future content. Before you go, check out the other videos on your screen for more exciting stories.